Hello, thank you for purchasing the Kamani Creations Chunky Hand Knit Hoodie pattern. In this tutorial, we're going to focus on creating this medium-sized crop hoodie. You can create whatever size you'd like, as well as the length. The measurements are included in the pattern. To complete the crop top medium-sized hoodie, you're going to need 4 skeins or 40 ounces of Bernay Big Blanket yarn in Plum Fest, a tape measure, a large eye blunt yarn needle, scissors, a lighter, stitch markers, waste yarn, and worsted weight yarn. Doesn't matter what color. All right, so we have gotten everything that we need. Let's get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we are going to be making a medium-sized chunky knit sweater. All right, so we're going to start off by chaining 15 chains. So let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to wrap the yarn around my hand like this, make a loop like that, and then bring the yarn up and through like this. So make a little knot. I actually don't want this long of a tail, so I'm going to make this just a little bit shorter. This is all I need right there. So wrap it around like this and pull it through. And for the first chain, we're going to be making the holes or the loops a little bit bigger. Okay, so we're going to do 2.5 finger holes wide. Okay, so we're going to do 15 of these chains. So this is 1, this is 2, then we're going across to 15. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 chains. I'm going to make this one just a little bit smaller. And this is going to be the first loop of our first row. Just like that. Pretty cool. All right, so let's do our first row. So how we do the first row, we're just going to go through this top stitch right here. And we're going to pull up the yarn just like that. And you're going to try and make sure it's about the same size, like all of the loops are the same size. So we're going to do about 2 finger holes wide for our loops. All right, so we're just going to do the next one, make sure it's about the same size. And as you go, you will just figure out the size. It's pretty easy to keep them uniform. But as you're doing the first row and you're getting used to doing finger knitting, it's just good to just compare them as you go for at least the first row till you get the hang of it. So we're going to go across to the end. And it's always good to keep your yarn loose in front of you so that you don't have extra tension on the yarn. It makes things a lot easier for you. Okay, so now we're getting to our last stitch. And also, one thing I did when I was first finger knitting is I did not count across. So I had gone to like maybe 15 rows and realized, oh my gosh, I had missed a stitch. So it's always good for, the first at least 4 or 5 rows. Make sure you count your stitches just to make sure that you have all of them. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we got them all. We got 14. Perfect. So now when we get to our end stitch, for the first 4 rows, we are going to knit the last stitch. And I will show you how to do that. Okay, so we're going to take our yarn, just like the other ones, and just put it up through there. That's it. That's all. And then we go to the next one and continue as always. But you will see as we progress, you'll see why I'm mentioning knitting the last stitch. All right, so now we're finished row 2. I'll meet you back here when we finish row 4. All right, so we're here at the end of row 4. We're going to start doing rows 5 to 11. The reason why I stopped here is because we're going to be doing rows 5 to 11 just a little bit differently. Instead of knitting the end stitch like we have been doing, we're going to skip the end stitch and go to the next one. So the reason why we're doing this, when you put the end stitch, like when you knit the end stitch, it kind of makes the yarn kind of jagged, and the end part, it doesn't look nice at the end. If you'll notice here, the reason why we did do this is because when we're stitching up the sides, it's good for us to have as much chains on the side as possible. And you'll see when we get there what I mean. So for this going up, this is going to be for our arm section. We're not the reason why I'm doing this way for the arm. I'm trying to reduce the bulk. So this is one of the ways that I found helped do that. So we're going to skip the first stitch like this. So all you do, literally, don't knit the first stitch. So we're going to bring our yarn over and go into the second stitch. And just put this little guy over there, and that's it. We'll catch him on the way back. And we go across the row. Okay, we got to our last stitch here. We knit the last stitch, but just not the first stitch. So then we leave this guy open or put him off to the side and go to the next one. And we keep doing that until we finish round 11. Okay, so we have reached the end of round 11 and we're going to start row 12. Okay, so row 12, we are going to knit the first 4 loops just a little bit smaller, the next 6 loops a little bit bigger, and then the next 4 loops a little bit smaller. The reason why we're doing this is because we are going to be using these loops to join the shoulders. And I have found that when you make them the same size as what we have been doing, it kind of leaves big spaces around the shoulder. And the middle 6 stitches, these are what we're going to be using for the neckline. So that's why when we bind them off, we don't want it to be like choking us. So we're going to make these a little bit bigger in the middle. Okay, so let's start with our first 4 stitches. So we are going to, for this last row 12, we are going to knit this stitch here just a little bit smaller. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I am going to use some waste yarn to tie these off. Okay, so I have my waste yarn here, tying it off, and do a little tie here. Ideally, you should be using the thick yarn, but I like my little strings, my little waste yarn. I like it. All right, so the middle 6 loops, we're going to make these a little bit bigger. So here we go. Not too big. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to use my waste yarn again. Tie these off. 1, 2. Then our last 4. 1. Make those a little smaller. So that is that for that. So we now have 14 stitches across 4 here, 4 here, and 6 here. And we're going to leave about a 3.5 foot tail. And this tail is what we're going to use to sew up the shoulders. All right, so what we're going to do is move on to the back. Now, the back is basically the same as the front up until we get to row 11. So do the back the exact same way we did the front, and I'll meet you at row 11. Okay, so there may come a time, and definitely when doing the sweater, there will come a time where you're going to have to join your yarns together, and this is one of the best and most reliable ways that you can do it. So a lot of people just take one side of the yarn and they take a lighter and they just light one side of the yarn and then they smush it together and they're good to go. And it does last from what I've seen. However, for me, I prefer to smush down the yarn. So in the middle, there's like a hard kind of plastic in the middle, and that's what holds the yarn fibers together. So I push it down together on both sides. Then I take my lighter, I light one side, and I try to get that middle piece lit like a candle. Blow it out, and I take the other middle piece, do it as quickly as possible, and then I mush them together like that, taking care not to put my hands or my fingers too close too quickly. And then I kind of squish it together like that for a few seconds. And then we have our join. It's like it never happened. You can do this if you'd like, but basically, this is how you would join your yarn. Voila! All right, so now we are at the end of round 11, beginning of round 12. And what we're going to do in this round is do a short row for the back. So a short row is used in knitting just to have the back a little bit even with the front. So I don't know if you've seen sometimes some pieces where the front kind of hangs a little lower than the back. We are trying to alleviate that problem. So we're just going to add one row or one part of one row in the back so that the sweater hangs nicely. Okay, so because this is such a thick yarn, normally when you're doing this with thinner yarn, it's several rows. Thankfully, we don't have to do that. We only have one row that we're going to be doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark off. I like to do this because sometimes I forget. We're going to mark off 4 stitches. So the first 4 stitches, here's one. I'm going to put my marker there. And then 4 stitches on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we are going to do a short row on the middle 6 stitches. So what you'll do is take another skein of yarn and start knitting with that. So we're going to leave about this long, about 12 inches of yarn out. And we're just going to place it here in the front. And oops, got the wrong space. And we're just going to knit across these 6 stitches. So we're just going to go 1, normal, just like normal, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is all we got to do. And we're going to cut this. Okay, so this is our short row. We're going to take our yarn here. I am going to tuck it in through here. Tuck the other side through here. We don't want it to come out. And we are going to now knit our round 12, or sorry, row 12. So we can remove our markers. Didn't really have to add them, but you know, better safe than sorry. Okay. And continue to do our round 12 just like we did for our front. We're going to make the first the first 4 stitches will be a little bit smaller. The middle stitches will be a little bit bigger. And then the last 4 stitches will be a little bit smaller. So let's do that. Okay. And we are going to use our waste yarn again. And there we go. And as for the back, we are going to keep about 3.5 feet of yarn to sew up the back. All right, so make sure you keep that tail at the end. And now we are going to just weave in our short row because we don't want it to go anywhere. So we're going to turn over on the wrong side of our piece. And I usually just do it diagonally because if you do it going straight, you'll be able to see it on the other side. So if you do it diagonally for about 2 or 3 stitches, it's basically invisible on the other side. We do it for both sides. Bring it back through. Or you can leave it down as well. You can just leave them down so there's like no bulk, but it's fine. You can cut them off here. And there you have that. And then turn it over. Where that short row at? You can't see it. You see nothing. All right. Now we are going to sew the front and the back shoulders together. Oh, before we sew up the front and back pieces, it's good to mark your piece or the back piece. What I usually do, I just mark the back piece so I know which one is the back piece. So I just use some of my waste yarn and mark the back just like that. It really helps a lot. All right, so now we are going to join the front shoulder to the back shoulder. So we're going to remove our waste yarn like so. And you put your pieces, the front and back pieces, facing each other. And then you're going to match up your 4 loops just like that. Okay, so just like that. So this is how we're going to seam it. So I'll go slow and then I'll do the other side too because I found this a little bit challenging. Maybe you won't, but for me, I had to do it several times before I caught on. So let me see if I can bring the camera in just a little bit closer so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, so you are going to take the end of your working yarn from this loop here, and you're going to bring it through to the opposite end, so to the back, as you can see, through this loop here. So make sure that you hold on to your loops because we don't want to stretch anything out and pull it all the way through gently. Okay, and then we are going to take our working yarn again and go through the space that we just came from. So we're going to go through this loop right here. You can see. So the one we just came through, and we're going to go through the front this way. and hold on to it. And this is the portion where I said, make it as, I guess, tight as you possibly can, because we don't want the shoulders to droop and stretch and leave holes. So make it as tight as you can. So here we go. We have our first join. And now we are going to take our working yarn and go through the loop, the first loop on the opposite side. We're going to go through the top, just like that. Okay, pull that through. Okay, pull it all the way through. Then we're going to go over with our working yarn to the next loop over on the back side. So from here to here, and we're going to go through the front. Pull it all the way through. Now we are going to go through the top side of our first loop. So we're going from this one diagonally to this one. So we're going through like this. Okay. Then we're going to take our yarn to the next stitch over and go in through this way. Okay. All the way through. Then we're going to take the yarn and go down into this stitch here, that loop. Okay, pull it all the way through, then up through the next loop here, then down through this loop, then up through the next loop, okay, and then we're going to go down through this loop, up through the next loop, and then down through this loop, up through this loop. Oh, that help? Oh, sorry, I didn't have the lights on. And then down through this loop. Okay, so I hope you kind of saw that progression. Try to make it simple as possible, so it almost seems like it's a seamless. And that way we reduce that bulk or bump at the top. So that's why we do it. Oops, that's why we do it this way, so that it's less bulk. That's what we're trying to do on the inside. All right. So what I like to do now is put a marker, because I love markers. Put a marker in the first join, because this is where we're going to be attaching our shoulders when we get to that point. But I just like to mark it off now, so that when I get there, it's just easier for me. So that is it for this side. We're going to leave this yarn out for use later. So now we don't worry about that. We're just going to keep moving to the other side. Okay, we're back. All right. So now we're going to do the other side. As you see, back is on this side now. The front is over here. We are going to remove our waste yarn. Bing! from the first 4 stitches. We're going to match up our stitches here, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so let's do this again. I put the camera a little bit further out. Maybe that would be more helpful. I don't know. Let us hope. And if all right, so let us do this again. So we're going to go in through this stitch across the way through the front of the stitch, the loop, pull it all the way through. Take your working yarn, put it through here. Pull it all the way through. Then we're going to take the working yarn and put it through the top of that loop. And we have done our first join. And we're going to take the working yarn, move it to the next stitch, loop. Please forgive me. I don't know why I keep doing this over and over again. Anyways, all right. So now we've gone through this way. We're going to go down through that loop and up through this loop, through the next loop. Okay. And then we're going to go down. Oops. What's happening here? Down through this loop. And up through this one. Down through this loop. Up through here. And then down through this loop. Through here. Down through this loop. Up through here. And then down through this loop. And we're done! Yay! So I'm going to mark off this side with my marker. So I know where to find this, the end. And we are done seaming the shoulders. There you go. Good to go. Okay, so now we're going to work on the neckline. And remember I was telling you about using those 6 middle loops for the bind off. So here we are now. So we're going to remove our waste yarn from those because we don't need to hold these stitches anymore because we're going to use them. That's right. Okay, take it off from here in the back. And we're just going to go around and bind off the front stitches. So we're just going to go just like that, feed it through, take the one loop, put it in here, and feed it through. One loop, feed it through. One loop, feed it through. One loop, feed it through. Now, this is what I am calling my creative license because this is not normally done, I guess, in knitting. But what I have found is that if you keep just binding off around like this, around the neckline, there's a big hole here. And we don't want that. So what I do is I take this piece of yarn that we had and I create 2 stitches. Sorry, 2 loops, one on either side. So I have one over here. And then where's that other big space? There. Then I have one over here, just so that I don't have the big gap, right? So then I continue making my bind offs with my 2 new created loops. So we have 1 and then 2, and then we keep going around. Let me turn this. So now I'm going to continue binding off the neckline till we get to the end of our loops. Like, oh my gosh, we have no more loops. But it's all right, because now I'm going to use this piece from the right side, and I'm going to make 2 more loops over here, because I don't like big spaces in here. So I'm going to bring up a loop here because I don't want a big gap. So 1 at the back. And 1 at the front. Okay. So then I'm going to continue binding off. 1, 2, and then to finish off this round, I'm going to take that yarn and I'm going to create a false stitch just so I can join them together. Okay, so I'm going to take it through this last loop. Okay. Put it through the first stitch that I made. Bring it around. And then down through that stitch. Tuck it back in there. And there, I've done it. We have bound off our neckline. We have a beautiful neckline of 17 stitches around. So there we go. We got a lovely neckline. I don't know if you guys can see that. So there we go. And then we are going to, now we don't need these guys anymore. We are going to weave in these pieces. All right, so we've weaved in our stitches. This is the front of our sweater. This is the back of our sweater. We're gonna fold the sweater in half like this. And I'm gonna find the middle stitch on the neckline unconventionally, and I'm gonna mark it off. So this way I'm going to know exactly where I'm going to put the placement of the hood when that time comes. So this is the middle one here. Let's put my marker here for when we need it. And that's that. So now we're going to move on to our hood. Okay, so for the hood, we're going to leave a tail of about a foot, about this long. And this tail is going to be used to sew the hood onto the sweater. Okay, so we're going to start with that foot, the foot and a half, and make our chain. And we're going to do a chain of 17. So basically, we're doing the exact same thing that we did for the sweater. We're just going to do 14 rows. I'll just go across with the chain. And when we're going across here, we are going to do about 2 finger widths hole again. Am I right? Am I right? Let's try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yes, I did it. All right, I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. And now I am going to knit 14 rows back and forth for the hood. So with this one, we're going to do the same. Ooh, you're hiding. The same finger hole space, I guess, as our sweater, just so that everything looks the same. So we're going to go across, just like we did with the sweater. And for this, we are going to be skipping the first stitches all the way to the top. So the exact same thing we did with the last rows of the sweater. Just skip the first stitch. Okay, so I'll see you at the top. Okay, so we finished row 14, and all we have to do here is measure across the length of our hood and cut this. I think. Am I weak? Can I not pull it? Yes, I can. I can do it. I can't find my scissors right now. Okay, so all we're going to do is use this length of yarn to sew up the top when we attach the hood to the sweater. So we're just going to use some waste yarn to hold these stitches, and I will see you back here to assemble the sweater and put the sleeves on first. All right, here we are at the shoulder part. I know you can't really see that we're at the shoulder part, but we are at the shoulder part. This is the shoulder times. Okay, so let me try and let you see where we are at. Camera's not cooperating with me. Okay, so this is the back of the sweater. This is the neck opening, and this is the front. Okay, so we have our sweater face down like this. So what we're going to do is fold it up like we did before when we were putting the piece here. Fold it up like that. Bring it a little bit towards you. And now this part is where we're going to be adding the shoulder stitches. Okay, so remember our middle seam here, sorry, our middle stitch here where we're going to be attaching the shoulder to. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've counted 5 spaces. This is where we're going to be pulling up the loops on the garment for the shoulder. So this is going to be our middle stitch right here, our middle loop we're going to add right here. Then we're going to take the holes right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is going to be the last one here. And on this side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the last one here on this side. So let us do it. We're going to get our yarn and leave this little bit. We don't need to leave out a lot because we're just going to weave this in when we're done. We're going to pull this up underneath just like that. So simple, so easy. Oops. Making it more difficult than it has to be. And there we go. We have our first stitch for our shoulder. And we have number 2, pull up a loop right beside it. number 3, number 4, number 5. And for our middle stitch, we're going to go a little bit in front. So right here, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10, oops, 10, and number 11. We're here. And what we're going to do is, again, with our 2 finger holes wide, we're going to knit 16 rows. So let's begin. Take your yarn, pull it up, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to do the same thing like we had done before. We're not going to knit the last stitch on each row, and we keep doing that until we get to row 16. See you there. Here we are at row 16. So now we're going to bind off tightly and tie off and do this. I'm going to put those 2 loops on your fingers and then bring a loop through and do the same thing. 2 loops on your fingers, bring a loop through, take that loop, bring a loop forward, bring it through, just like that. And then you're going to do it for the whole row. Then when we're done, we're going to pull our yarn all the way through, and we are done with our first sleeve. Okay. And we can cut off maybe up to about here, so we don't need all the rest of that. We're going to leave that for now. So that's our first sleeve, and we will repeat for the next sleeve. So I'll see you back here for us to do the sides. All right, skirts. Hold on one second. I need to let you know about weaving in the portion for your sleeve area here. So I just go up and through, up and through, and then I'm going to wrap it around here and here, and that's it. And also, it's important for us to remove our markers because we don't want markers in our sweater. So now is the time to remove your marker. We will leave these 2 markers as a guide for the next step of this wonderful process. See you later. All right, we are back. And I ain't gonna lie, I hate this part right here. I'm just joking, but I'm not really joking. Anyways, no, seriously, I'm just joking. This is, for me, the most challenging part of this pattern, simply because the stitches, how they end up. For the sleeve portion, it's fairly easy because they line up nicely. But when joining the body portion, especially in this crop top, when there's not a lot of stitches to bring together, it's a little bit challenging, but not impossible. So we're going to get through it. Okay, so what we're going to do is do the mattress stitch to sew up the sleeve and the side. So first we're going to start with the sides here. I'm not sure if you guys can see very clearly. So this is the bottom of our sweater. This is the armpit portion right here, where you see these two markers that we had left, and this is the sleeve portion. So what I like to do is I'm going to take this piece that we left out, tie that up here, just so I'm aware of where everything is supposed to end up. So just tie it lightly like this. Then I'm going to go somewhere in the middle of the arm and use our lovely waste yarn that no piece is ever left behind, even this small, because look, it's coming in handy. So I tie this up right here, and then we come to this piece right here. My favorite part, loving it. Okay, so actually before we get there, gotta start at the bottom right here. Ensure that the bottom of our sweater is matching up. Okay, so here we are right there. I'm going to, and then I'm going to put this here. Okay, so I am going to use this bright red yarn so that you guys can see how it blends into the garment. So it doesn't really matter what yarn you use, it should blend in nicely. So I'm going to use this just so you can see where I'm stitching. So what you do is, what I like to do is I like to first go from the bottom of the sweater to the armpit, and then from the armpit to this section, as opposed to doing it in one long line. It's just easier for me to do it that way. So that's what's going to happen today. Okay, so we're going to cut 3 lengths worth of yarn. Okay, so that's 3 lengths, and then I'm going to double up our yarn, cut it. We have our needle, thread the needle. All right, so I'm not going to put a knot at the end of this because that doesn't make any sense, because this yarn is just so big. All right, so we're going to start from the bottom. Okay, on this side. We are going to be going through this portion. Not sure if you can see very well. This portion of the side. So we're going to be sewing up through here and also through this side. So first we're going to start over here on our first row. I'm going to go up and under here, pull the yarn up. Okay, then I'm going to go to the next side and pull the yarn up under here on our first row, go up, or sorry, our foundation row, go up through there. Then I'm going to go back over to the other side and go up again through that stitch. So this is what they call a figure 8. If you look, come on, do a figure 8. If you look here, it's the figure 8. So that's the beginning of our mattress stitch. That's what it's called, mattress stitch. All right, so now I'm through over on this side. Now I'm going to go up through the same place that I left on the other side, and I'm going to pull up my yarn through this crazy space right here. Okay, so I'm going to go up through here. Then I'm going to go on the back on the other side, and this space is less crazy. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, so this space is less crazy. I'm going to come up through here. All right. Going back over here on this side. So I'm now going to go under two, which you can see, two of these ladders. Okay, so I'm going to go under one and under two over here. So you can see the yarn through there. Then I'm going to go under two of these ladders on this side. Okay, so now I'm going to pull my yarn because this looks crazy. I'm going to pull my yarn to see where I'm at. Pull it down through here. And it is melding nicely. Yay! All right, so now I'm going to continue on till I get to the armpit portion. Okay, so there's two more bars that I'm going to go through here on this side. See? And then I can remove this beautiful waste yarn. Then I'm going to go through two more bars on this side. Ugh. All right. And then I am going to, now this is where I take creative license. Now I am going to tie this portion up. I'm going to now remove my markers because I see where I'm going. I can remove them now. Tie this up. I'm going to tighten knot and do another one. All right, and I have finished seaming the side. And we see no red. Well, now we can see a red if you stretch it all the way out. But if you just put it like this, you don't see any red at all. All right, so now we're going to be doing the arm. Oh, sorry. And I guess I need to cut this. Right, and then we're going to tuck it in there. All right, so now we're going to do the arm. All right, so I saved the vest till last. Okay, so we're going to start from the arm, which, like I said, is going to be much easier. However, again, I've taken creative license. So normally when we do a mattress stitch, like we did here when we're doing the seams, we go through these bars here. So the first row, this is called the salvage row. This is the kind of basically the unpretty side. So we usually go through here so that when everything is joined up, it just looks so pretty. However, because I am trying to reduce bulk in the sweater, we are going to use the salvage row to knit up our last row. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so we're going to take our 3 lengths of yarn again. So 1, 2, 3. Cut that in half. So we're going to take out our holding yarn, which is not a waste yarn, but is our holding yarn. And we are going to go through and do our figure 8 again. And I guess it should be in the frame what I'm doing. So we've taken out our yarn here. So now it's open. I'm going to go in through this stitch on the side here so we can start our figure 8. Go in through the other side. Then we are going to go back up through this stitch so we can get our figure 8 going on. And then go through on the other side into our salvage stitch, our salvage side of the yarn. So we're going under here. And then on this side, let me try and find it, going under here. And then we're going to go under this one. We're just going to keep going back and forth on both sides. And I'm going to pull it just to see where I'm at. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any red yarn here. So that's a good sign. Okay, going up again. So as you see, the stitches don't look like the other ones on the side. It's more like a straight line, but at least we're not going to have as much bulk on the other side. So let me just go all the way to the end in here. Again, creative license. So now when we get up in here, the stitches are muddled. So I am going to do my best to just close it off. Okay. And I've met up with my other yarn from the other side. So I'm going to put my stitch in here and make a knot. Oops. Then I'm going to make another knot. And cut this off. And we're done. My favorite part. Yeah. So we've sewn it all up. Looks pretty good. Okay, so now we're just going to weave in our yarn here. So we're going to take this piece here, put it into that stitch. Oh, it's not being easy. Put up and through. Going to make another false stitch over here. And this, I'm going to turn this inside out so we can see what we're doing here. All right, so I've turned the sleeve or the whole sweater inside out. I'm going to tie off this piece here because we don't want this hanging out, messing things up. And tie this off here. And I'm going to take this piece and weave it into here, like that. Okay, so there we go. So you barely can see our red yarn from the inside. It's here, but you barely see it, and you definitely don't see it from the outside. And this is what I mean by our stitch on the inside, which causes less bulk. So we only have one row on the inside. And here you'll see we have two distinct rows, which will make it a little bit bulkier on the inside of the sweater. But as time goes on, and because it's on your waist, it will flatten out. So that's not too bad. So what I'm going to do is do the same thing I did for the arm. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom of the sweater when I'm tying them off. All right, so we're still on the inside of the sweater, just making sure that everything looks cool on the inside, because if it doesn't look good on the inside, it's not going to look good on the outside. So everything seems to be good here. We've weaved in our pieces here. Sleeves look good. We've weaved in everything that we need to here. Oh, missed something here. Good thing I did a little check. Make sure this is weaved in here. That's looking good. So now I don't know why I forgot this piece, but now it's time for us to add our hood portion. So I'm going to turn this right side in, and we're going to add the hood. And I don't know why you keep popping out. Hey, we got to fix you. Don't make me look bad. Okay, here we are with our sweater turned right side in. We have our sleeves attached, and now we are going to add the hood. So as I had mentioned before, we have our marker here for the middle stitch. So this is the center of the sweater. So we're going to begin attaching our yarn for the hood on this stitch to the left of the marker. Okay, so let's do that. All right, so we've turned the sweater around so it's easier to add the hood this way. So we are going to go to the left of the marker right here. We're going to take our yarn that we had at the very end of our hood, and we're going to place it underneath this stitch. Pull it through. Now we're going to take the next stitch of the hood, place it against the next stitch of the neckline. Sorry, I'm having some moments here. And we're going to yarn over, pull it through. That is it. That is all. And we're going to go around the whole neckline doing that. This, I find, is so much easier than sewing it on, and it looks better as well. And believe it or not, for this, it seems to be less bulky. I don't know why. I've tried it the other way by sewing it down, and it doesn't look right. So this is the best that I found. All right, so let's continue on. I'll see you when we're done. All right, so we've come to the end. We're going into our very last stitch. Pull it through. I'm going to do another loop through there. Okay, and then we're going to weave in this yarn on the inside of the hood. Just like that. And now we can remove our marker at the front. That off a little bit. And we have added the hood. It's all good. We've added the hood. All right. So now we are going to sew up the hood, top of the hood. Okay, so we're going to use the same method we used to attach the shoulder to the front and back shoulders to each other. So I'm going to remove the waste yarn. Let me pull this down a little bit. And we're going to take, if you remember, take our yarn, our working yarn. Oops. That's better. Okay, take our working yarn, bring it through the stitch on the opposite side, sorry. Then we're going to bring it back through where we just came from. Then we're going to go down into this loop and then over to the next. Okay. Down here. And up over to the next. So now we have come to our last stitch. So we're going up through here and down through here. And we have completed that. So what we're going to do is go back down through here into the inside of the hood. Okay, and now I'm going to make a little knot just to lock it off. Just make sure everything is copacetic. Tie it up like that. And then just tie it through here just a little bit. Make sure I don't see it on the other side. Nope. Do a little cut. And there's our hood. It's all good in the hood. We have done our sweater. And I'll show you the sweater in the next cut.